So welcome everybody. I'll kind of do that intro. Is this evening's session is we're going to hit the dirt running with our off-highway vehicle team. In today's session, we have education side of off-highway vehicle with Chris Johnson and the law enforcement side with Desi. And so thank you, gentlemen, for being with us during this evening's session. For tonight, as always, it's pretty casual environment. So if anytime anybody has questions, please feel free to either use the raise hand function or in the chat. As Chris and Desi are providing us information this evening, we'll be monitoring the chat. And so if you have any questions, comments, or anything, then we'll bring those up and have those addressed, or at the very end. You're welcome to fire away questions at that time too, because sometimes in the middle of the presentation, they might actually cover questions that you might have. So, but at any time, this is a very casual environment. So fire away questions and comments as you think of them, because we don't want you to forget anything either if you have to wait. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Morgan. I'm the Hunter Education Coordinator out of Albuquerque for the department. I'll pass it over to Tristana and let her introduce herself, and then go ahead and have other introduction, then we'll get started.
Great, thank you, Jennifer, and welcome Patty and Darcy and everybody. I'm Tristana Bickford. I'm the Assistant Chief of Education based out of the Albuquerque office, and I am excited to learn more about the OHV program. It's on my list to learn more about, so this is a perfect opportunity for me. And Stephanie, I'll kick it over to you, and then we can go to our guests of honor for the evening.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm the Assistant Hunter Education Coordinator out of the Albuquerque office. And I like Tristana, I'm looking forward to learning more about this because I am totally like, just know nothing. And Desi, my opinion of the backwards cap, that was cool. That was a great look for the casual.
She said it was casual, so like it.
Yeah. So Desi, I'll pass it to you.
There you go. So I'm Desi Ortiz. I'm the Law Enforcement Coordinator for the Off-Highway Vehicle Program. I still am game warden with the Department of Game and Fish, began my career in 2005 up until the end of 2011. I received a promotion to the current position that I am in now. And yeah, we will tell you tales of woe and good things too. Chris?
My name is Christopher Johnson, and I'm the Off-Highway Vehicle Education Coordinator. I've been doing this job for about 8 years. Prior to that, for 14 years, I used to teach the motorcycle safety street program, helping folks get their license for street bikes. I'm also a former desert racer, current motorcycle trials rider. In case nobody knows what that is, you ride over rocks and logs and stuff. Somebody watches you do it. Every time you put a foot down, they count against you. So it's scored kind of like miniature golf. And then,
so it's like mountain biking on steroids.
And it's slow speed. So theoretically, you never get injured, although I managed to do that. But anyway, but yeah, my job is basically to teach ATV, dirt bike, side-by-side classes, safety classes for anybody who wants to get a safety permit here in New Mexico, and for the kids in New Mexico, it's required by law.
Great, fantastic. So again, at any time, anybody has any questions, fire away. So we'll go ahead and pass it off to you, gentlemen, and you can go ahead and start your formal presentation and your screen sharing, and we'll give you thumbs up if we can see everything and everything's working out good.
Okay, here goes nothing. So
screen sharing by fire.
Two. And no sound to share. Okay. All right. You should be seeing our there.
You are good.
All right. And
good job, Chris.
So this is the PowerPoint presentation we worked up. It was first presented a couple of years ago for the Department of Health, and we massaged it for tonight's presentation. So here it goes. We're going to talk about OHV safety in New Mexico before 2009. New Mexico's Off-Highway Motor Vehicle Act, the OHV Act requirements for youth, and our OHV program overview. From 2000 or before 2009, so these numbers come from the Consumer Product Safety Commission, which tracks ATV accidents, off-highway vehicle accidents across the country. From 82 to 2005, we had 76 reported ATV deaths. And in the early 2000s, oops, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead there. In the early 2000s, a few high-profile accidents got the attention of our legislators and was spurred really by the 18-year-old son of the publisher of the Albuquerque Journal, who was killed in a late night ATV accident. In 2002, he and a friend were riding under the influence of alcohol and in a place they should not have been. Neither was wearing a helmet. He was killed and was later found to have a blood alcohol content of 0.124. So significantly over the legal limit, and especially for an 18-year-old. As a result of that, the Albuquerque Journal published 16 articles on ATV dangers and accidents over the next 2 years. And that got the attention of the governor and the legislature. Legislation was introduced in 2004, but died in committee. And then the 2005 Act created a 27-member OHV safety board. And the program was given to the tourism department. They purchased some equipment, they leased some billboards, and they printed some brochures, but no training was actually conducted. So the act was, the OHV Act created the Trail Safety Fund, and that is filled with revenue from OHV registrations. And so in 2009, because no training was taking place essentially, the legislature gave authority to the Department of Game and Fish, partly because the department had a track record with hunter education of teaching people how to do something that has some danger to it. And then also enforcement with the game wardens going around the state, enforcing the game protection statutes. So it seemed like the most logical fit of any state agency for OHV to land with game and fish. The act also set some limits on the Trail Safety Fund appropriations. The way it's set up, the department can't spend more than 30% for administrative costs, and at least 50% is allotted for law enforcement actions, so patrols on the ground, and also for education, so all of our educational outreach and the safety classes that we put on. And then the department also set up a grant program, both for law enforcement grants for patrols and also for OHV trail projects, things that make trails better, things that fix trails where damages occurred, various other projects that folks in the community and the OHV community can come up with. Let's see. And next, so Desi, you want to talk about the OHV Act? You want me to proceed?
Yeah, no, I can handle this one, I think. So, all right, so Off-Highway Vehicle Act, there's a lot to it. It's my job to convey this message out to law enforcement. So I visit all the academies, all of the federal agencies who enforce off-highway vehicle, everything. I visit local agencies, city, state, federal, tribal, again, anybody who has OHVs, and that's pretty much every single sector of the state. I'm in charge of making sure they get the message. They're like kids sometimes, they hear it, but they don't pay attention to it. So, it's my job to kind of reiterate over and over to make sure these guys get it. We have a lot of handouts that we give them. We created a law enforcement brochure that we also hand out. We've got a general information rules and information booklet that we give out to the general public, and we have law enforcement hand them out when they do make the contacts, whether it's an education contact or an enforcement contact. All right, so we'll continue, Chris, right there. What's an OHV? An off-highway vehicle is considered an all-terrain vehicle. An ATV, that'll be your upper left. Dirt motorcycles on your upper right. We're looking at snowmobiles. Whenever we have snow, and we do occasionally get some snow, we have a pretty good recreation area up north and sometimes down south in the Cloudcroft, Rio Dosa area. And then finally, the last and fastest growing segment of off-highway vehicles is what we call a recreational off-highway vehicle, or a UTV, depending on where you are and what you drive. Let's see if I covered everything there. Any questions on what is considered? So the question always comes up is what's a three-wheeler? Is that considered an off-highway vehicle? Three-wheelers are still considered off-highway vehicles, although they don't make them anymore. Anybody from, and I'm not going to date myself, but I, from my generation, or maybe Chris's generation, knows that they are they're a fun tool, but they're also very dangerous. If you've ever owned one, you know you've flipped on one, or have had a cousin fly off under the tire or off the side of one. Very fun, but very dangerous. That's why they don't make the three-wheelers anymore. The other thing that also,
that's the reason why they don't make them anymore.
Yeah, those big balloon tires were notorious for catching kids and rolling them under. The other thing that comes up a lot is go-karts. Under the Off-Highway Vehicle Act, go-karts aren't considered an off-highway vehicle. The toys that they get for kids, the small Jeeps or the small ATVs that are plastic, those aren't considered off-highway vehicles. Under the rule or under the act, they don't specify a CC limit to what an off-highway vehicle is. I generally tell people if it's used for recreation and it's above CCs, use your best judgment. It should be registered and follow all the rules under the Off-Highway Vehicle Act. One of the rules being our next slide here is all off-highway vehicles need to be. We've got several stickers, so stick with me through this next section. So what you're looking at right here is our resident registration requirement. The yellow one on the left. The green one is for on pavement use where allowed by ordinance or Chris, what is it?
Resolution.
Ordinance or
state,
resolution by the State Transportation Commission. Sorry about that. So every 2 years, the yellow one on the left is a registration, just like your plate on your vehicle, your full-size vehicle, has to be re-registered every 2 years. $50, $53 initially, and $50 every 2 years after that, or upon change of ownership. And what we usually get the calls are, hey, I bought an off-highway vehicle from my buddy. His sticker still says I'm good for another 2 years, another 6 months, and I have to give him the bad news that just like a full-size vehicle, you have 30 days to re-register and get a registration decal in your name and replace the old one. The one on the right, the green one, is for pavement use where allowed under ordinance or resolution. That's a one-time fee of $7, and those two are only given exclusively at MVD. They are now, instead of that green one, they're giving out a white plate. That the reason we went away from a plate in the beginning is people were having trouble mounting that to their ATV, their side-by-side. So now we went back to a plate. So they're going to have to find a way to mount it to their side-by-side or ATV. And usually that means drilling a hole somewhere on that machine and attaching it with wire, rivets that usually end up popping off once they're off-road. These stickers were really good until you put degreaser on there, and then it erased the whole thing.
Or a power wash.
And if that happens, go ahead.
Or the power wash at the car wash. I just wanted to note too that the Department of Motor Vehicles sells the resident decals, and they've been selling paved road decals to people who are registering vehicles that are not allowed to operate on paved roads. So MVD isn't quite on the same page with everybody else as far as OHV enforcement. So we see people receiving paved road decals for motorcycles, meant for snowmobiles, and they can't use them. So they're spending $7 that they didn't need to. So anyway, keep going, Desi.
Correct. No, that
Ready
was
for another
perfect.
slide?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Well, real quick, oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Yeah, go
Could you
ahead.
backtrack just 1 second to the last slide? Just for a little clarification, and maybe you're going to cover it later on in your presentation, but in regards to the paved road decal, do you happen to know the certain communities or municipalities that will allow you to drive on the paved road, and potentially what does your ATV OHV have to have in order to be compliant with being able to be used on pavement?
Perfect question, Jennifer. So on our website, and we get this call every day, and we have the brochures, we have commercials that go out with all of our branding on it, and I think we could do a better job of getting the message out. But on our website, beforeyouride.com, or if you're at wildlife.state.nm.us, you can go under the off-highway vehicle tab, OHV, and under laws and rules on the left-hand side, there's a tab. You click on that, and it'll bring up statute, our fines, a whole mess of things. And if you go a little past that, we have all of the municipalities and cities, villages posted in one section. And just below that, we have all of the counties that now allow off-highway vehicles on their roads that they own and control, because they have either enacted an ordinance or passed an ordinance. Once enacted or passed, they can go a little more restrictive in the counties and municipalities from what state law says, but they have to follow state law, and then there's some extras there. So if it's allowed by ordinance, they'd have to do, helmet, goggles, if it's somebody under 18 operating, mirrors, muffler, and brakes. They have to have insurance, liability works, or if they want to get full coverage, they have to have a mirror attached on the machine, whether it's left, right, or center. That doesn't specify in law. The operator, regardless of age, has to have goggles, and they have to have their registration on the machine. I think I was going somewhere with this other one. Chris, did I miss one?
Well, the kids, any operator under the age of 18 has to have their driver's license, as does an adult. But the kids also have to have proof of safety training, which we'll talk more about in just a bit.
Correct. And then also, if they are going to be utilized on pavement, they are going to be treated by law enforcement as if they were a full-size vehicle. So that means if you've got a kid riding, the kid has to have, number one, helmet and goggles by law in an off-highway vehicle. But if they're required to wear a car seat by Chapter 66, the Motor Vehicle Code, then they better have a car seat in that vehicle, because, like I said, they're getting treated as if they were a full-size vehicle. The other part of that is speeding. If they're caught speeding, they'll be treated just like a full-size vehicle. If you go to that website, the Before You Ride, and look under laws and rules, and you click on a particular ordinance, when I said they go a little more restrictive, they set ride operation time. So they can, different one. I'll give you an example. They can ride from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., but not anywhere before that. Some places will only allow somebody over 18 to be on a side-by-side. That's the other part. They can say whether they want side-by-sides only, or side-by-sides and ATVs, or ATVs only. So it's all dependent on that municipality or county. So it pays to really click on that ordinance. We have a majority of them in PDF form, and I think they've changed a few of those websites on us, so we have to go back in and kind of update those. But for the majority, 80% of them still work. And when you try to ask for an updated one, nobody knows at the county what we're talking about half the time. Okay, Chris. Oh, Jen, did that answer? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. And so our next slide here is what is around us and what do we accept. So we pretty much reciprocate, I would say, with pretty much everybody in the United States. I know there's some places that won't if we don't. Every neighbor around us, Texas, Colorado, and Arizona, and Utah, have all gone, they've eliminated reciprocity. So if we want to go there with our registration, we can't. We'd have to buy one of theirs. If they want to come over here, we wave at them and say, welcome to New Mexico, and please enjoy our our lands. But yeah, so if somebody comes from another state and they're registered for recreational purposes under the Off-Highway Vehicle Act there, we will accept it with no questions asked. If they want to ride on pavement here and they don't have a pavement plate or decal in their state, they'll have to purchase one of ours. I think we're good on that one, Chris.
Yeah, so there's the non-resident decal and paved road permit.
Perfect.
So I've got some
just
interesting
go.
numbers here. From let's see, in 2002 year-to-date sales from non-resident permits, we brought in $13,842 from selling 769 90-day permits, $26,000 in 2-year permits, and $2,653 from paved road permits. Over the total of 2021, that amounted to $43,000 from the 90-day permits, $55,000 from the 2-year permits, and $6,200 from the paved road permits. So even with reciprocity, our 2021 gross revenue from non-resident permits was more than $105,000. So that's money coming into the state government, going to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and then we get our cut for the Trail Safety Fund. So,
How much does
thought you might like
the
it.
non-resident license cost? How much does a non-resident license cost?
So folks can spend $18 for a 90-day permit, or $45 for a 2-year permit, and then the paved road permit costs $7 and never expires.
Oh. Okay.
And the difference here between the two is with the non-resident, we don't ask them to provide or to prove ownership. We haven't heard of anybody abusing the system. I think a while back, if you were a resident and you click the non-resident box in your Game and Fish account, you could actually purchase a non-resident OHV permit. But I don't remember if it was 21 or 20, they fixed that little loophole. So now a resident, say with me, a resident will have to go through a bond process or go purchase an out-of-state OHV use permit. We don't require, even though it says residents, this is what you have available to you, they're not required by law to purchase a resident OHV permit to recreate here. As long as they have one that's current and valid, we will accept it. So if somebody wants to go to Colorado from New Mexico and ride all day, and then come back here and recreate, we will accept it all day long. And I think they're looking at fixing that maybe possibly in the next session, but who knows. Yeah, so the two differences there is, the other one, the yellow, you have to prove ownership, provide title, MSO from the dealership, the manufacturer. Over here, all you have to do is be a non-resident and put in 17 characters that satisfy the VIN requirement, make, model, and that's all that we require of this. It, like I said, hasn't been abused to my knowledge, but I'm sure there's somebody who's trying to buck the system there, but it goes without saying. We cover everything there, Chris. Oh, did you guys have any other questions on Reg?
So just the OHV Act exemptions for vehicles and people not required to register. So OHVs that are used exclusively on private lands. So if you're on your own 40 acres, the OHV Act does not apply. If you've got a vehicle that's owned by a government agency, such as the department's vehicles, they're exempt from registration. OHVs owned by non-residents that are being used for organized and sanctioned competition are also exempt from registration. Any vehicle that's being used for agricultural operations, so you can throw a bale of hay on your ATV and motor down the street, and theoretically you are exempt from the OHV Act. And then any dealer stock, manufacturer, distributor, wholesale machines, as long as they're not being used for demos or test rides, they're exempt from registration also. Okay. So we're talking a little bit about OHV Act requirements for youth. That was the major focus of the OHV Act, was trying to keep these tragic accidents with kids from happening. And so they've enacted some requirements for youth, helmet and eye protection, requiring an OHV safety permit. That's proof that the kid has had some sort of OHV safety training, whether it's a hands-on class like we offer or an online class like our training provider partners offer. Kids are never allowed to carry passengers. Kids that are haven't yet reached the age where they have a driver's license, they're required to have supervision from a parent or a guardian. Kids are subject to an age-appropriate size fit on the machine, both the physical size fit and the engine size fit. And no person under the age of 6 years of age shall operate an ATV on public land. So that does not include the little motorcycles. Motorcycles are kind of size limiting. A 3-year-old's not going to climb up on a full-size motocrosser and manage to get it started and ride away on it. It is, however, possible that that could happen with an ATV because they're self-balancing and stable on their own. So there are some parts of the law that say ATVs, kids have to be at least 6 years old, and then they have to be age appropriate from there.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
With the
And
OHV,
Chris, the other part, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tristan.
sorry, with OHV safety permit, do you have to carry proof on your person if you're a youth, similar to like Hunter Education and carrying that your Hunter Ed card with you?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Right. So the other part, Chris, was no one under 6 years old can operate an ROV side by side on public land.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we have size restrictions. We have size fit restrictions on side by sides as well. If you're under 10 years old, you can go up to 200 cc, and we've got cc restrictions on you know, when Chris talked about age appropriate size fit, we got size restrictions on a majority of our ATVs. So
I think I've got a slide of
Lego,
that
6 to
coming
9 years old. Oh, okay, go ahead, Chris. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I believe so. Yeah.
Come on, and there I was.
Okay, so youth protective gear requirements doesn't have to have a fluorescent green mohawk. However, it does have to be a motorsports type of helmet, and that means it bears a sticker showing that it's DOT approved. That's Department of Transportation, as in the federal agency. The DOT standard certifies, so it's the manufacturer stating that if their helmet was to be tested, it would meet the requirements of the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 218. Doesn't mean the helmet's been tested, but the manufacturer says it would pass if it was. In New Mexico, kids can also wear helmets that meet the European Union safety standard, and that's EECE 2218. Then there's also a requirement for eye protection. Could be goggles, safety glasses, or a helmet that has a face shield on it. And those eye protection has to meet a standard called VESC 8, that's Vehicle Equipment Safety Council, standard number 8, or the general ANSI, American National Standards Institute, Z87.1 standard. And this slide doesn't talk about it, but that standard has been superseded now by Z87 plus. So if you've got protective eyewear and it says Z87 plus on it, that's compliant eyewear. It exceeds the old Z87.1 standard. There's advantages and disadvantages to all kinds of eyewear. Generally speaking, the goggles seal out dust and debris a lot better. The safety glasses are more convenient for just casual riding. And the helmets on face shields, or the face shields on helmets, I should say, accommodate people who wear eyeglasses much better than either of the other types of eye protection. The law requires that they are free of scratches, providing clear view to both sides, and are fastened securely in the manner intended by the manufacturer.
You know, Chris,
so
real quick,
yes,
the question that comes up with helmets is, can I take my 1-year-old on this bumpy trail ride? Do I still have to, if he's in a car seat, do I still have to put a helmet on him? And I said, the law says that if they're under 18 and they're in an off-highway vehicle, it doesn't have a cutoff age, they have to have a helmet and goggles, despite how much fun your 1-year-old is wanting to have on the trail. It's probably not a good idea that whether they're in a car seat or not. I tell them what the law says, and it's up to the parents to heed the law. And I also mentioned it's not only the helmet, but it's helmet and goggles, regardless if it's a full enclosed cab. The way the law reads, under 18, helmet and goggles while on an off-highway vehicle. Now, they do make smaller helmets, because I run into a particular couple out in Rio Rancho all the time, and they have their 3 and 4-year-old, 3 and 5-year-old daughters with DOT approved smaller helmets that are lighter, that are a little more comfortable on their heads than these full-on motocross helmets. But they do make them. So when parents say I can't find one, they are out there. A bicycle helmet will not suffice as a approved DOT helmet.
So this next slide shows examples of proof of off-highway vehicle safety training. In the upper corner, we have the Department of Game and Fish customer ID card, and that is the same as a youth would show as proof that they've had hunter education. We also have a temporary OHV safety card when kids first take our class. This is the card they receive until such time as the hunter ed database is updated and shows that they have taken either an ATV or a dirt bike class. And then there are other programs that are grandfathered in under the law, such as programs by the ATV Safety Institute, the Motorcycle Safety Foundation's Dirt Bike School, and safety training from other states. If they've got proof of having completed that training, they're good to go as far as New Mexico statute is concerned. And there's also online training available. It was made available when it became obvious that we couldn't provide hands-on training in every city and every town around the state. So the rule is passed that online training would suffice for proof of safety training. And so we have partnerships with a couple of different providers, Calcami and Fresh Air and the ATV Safety Institute for their e-course. And so if a student completes the online training, then they've satisfied the requirements of state law as well.
Now there is a fee to these online courses. I $25 to $30, Chris. It's a one-time fee.
It's up to 35
Never
now.
have to.
Yeah.
Is it 35 now? Okay.
Yeah. And that's actually for sending the little plastic card in the mail. So a student can pass the test, but if they want proof that they did, they got to pay the fee.
And
so,
these, sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to say, just mention real quick, I don't know if you're going to mention, but the off-highway vehicle safety permits, while we recommend an individual permit for every machine they're going to be operating, whether it's a side-by-side, dirt bike, ATV, or snowmobile, they are not machine specific. A lot of times it's, well, they are, but to satisfy the requirement of law, they just have to take one and carry that pretty much until they're 18. But we recommend, I know Chris is a big proponent of it, training on every single machine that you're going to be operating on.
Yeah,
Correct.
the point that Desi is talking about is that you could take an ATV class and get a safety permit for that, and then legally you could go ride a dirt bike. However, the physical skills involved in riding a dirt bike are significantly different from those skills that you need to drive an ATV or even to operate side by side. And I'm a terrible example of trying to operate a snowmobile. Okay, so an important part of the law is that a person under the age of 18 is not allowed to carry a passenger on any sort of OHV at any time. If you look across the nation, those tragic accidents involving kids, unfortunately, a significant number of them involve 2, 3, or even 4 kids on an ATV. The operator loses control, and we've got multiple injuries and fatalities, and this law is really trying to address that.
So Chris, on that double passenger restriction, that also includes on private property?
No
Okay.
provisions of the OHV Act apply to private property.
Okay, so on public land only? Okay.
Correct.
And
the
real
law
quick,
also-
Chris, sorry to cut you off. So Jen, along those lines, the only thing that we can enforce on private property is being on private property with your off-highway vehicle without permission. So that's the only private property part of the Off-Highway Vehicle Act that we can enforce. Like Chris said, if we see them doing monkey jumps on the machine with 4 kids, we can't step in and do anything if they don't have any safety equipment or anything we're talking about. But if they're trespassing, if they're on property without permission, we can intervene and issue citations for that. Sorry, Chris.
Great, thank you
No
for
problem.
that clarification. I appreciate it.
And then there is a supervision requirement. So if a kid is under the age of 10, they have to be visually supervised at all times by a parent, legal guardian, or instructor of a safety training course. From the age of 10 to 17 years of age, they have to be visually supervised by a parent, legal guardian, or a person over the age of 18 who has a valid driver's license. There's an exemption in the act, and that is if a kid has reached the age and they've gotten their driver's license or motorcycle operator's license, which in New Mexico they can do for up to 100 cc's on the street motorcycle, then they're no longer required to be visually supervised. And this is recognizing the fact that if the state says they're safe to operate on a paved road, then the state also assumes that they're safe to operate in an off-road environment. And when my twins reached 13, I had them go through the motorcycle class because they had a tendency to ride in exactly the opposite directions from each other. And so visual supervision got very hard unless I was looking both ways at once. All right, so we did mention that there is age appropriate size fit, and you can see from the picture the contrast between a smaller youth model ATV and a larger youth model ATV. So that's a teenager, 17 years old, riding on a Polaris 200 cc youth model ATV. And you can see even a little guy who's probably 8 years old in that picture would just not fit on the 200 cc model. And so regardless of engine size, like I said, riders younger than 6 years of age may not operate ATVs on public land. From 6 to 9 years of age, they can ride anything up to 110 cc's in displacement. From the ages of 10 to 15 years, they can ride anything up to a 250 cc ATV. And then there is an exception in there. Riders 14 to 15 years of age who hold a valid driver's license can ride ATVs with engines up to 450 cc displacement. And this recognizes that there are kids out there racing the 450s, the competition 450s, and the law has a carve out to allow that to happen legally. Riders 16 years of age and older can ride ATVs with engines greater than 250 cc's. And then there are some age size fit requirements. So they refer to things like when the rider stands up on the floorboards, there has to be at least 3 inches of space between the rider's butt and the top of the seat. And this provides room for them to use their legs as extra shock absorbers. Also, their hands should be able to cover the controls with at least one finger able to operate at least to the first knuckle, operate brake and throttle controls. They should be able to do that with the handlebars full swing from the left and to the right. They also have to be able to sit on the ATV with their upper leg bone, their thigh bone, as close to a horizontal as possible. And they need to be able to put their feet on the controls and without having to reposition their feet to operate the controls. We've got a table that summarizes the age, size, fit requirements and engine size requirements. This may be a little bit hard for anybody to read on their computer screens. If anybody would like to have a copy of that, we'll be happy to provide them with that. Or take a quick screenshot. There it is.
Blow it up.
So now let's talk about the OHV program.
Hey guys, as
yes.
far as the adult requirements, so for the eye protection, does it have to be the goggles for adults, or does it, can it be sunglasses or regular eyeglasses?
So it's a good question. Eye protection always has to be safety approved eye protection. So sunglasses usually are not. You can get sunglasses that do bear the ANSI Z87 Plus certification, but just your Walgreens $5 a pair of sunglasses are probably not going to be certified as safety eyewear. It could be also goggles or a helmet with a face shield.
And by law, the helmet and goggle requirement is only for youth under the age of 18. We recommend it highly for adults, we really do. But by law, 18 or under 18, helmet, goggles, over 18.
Except when operating on
hands. There you go.
Yep. Okay. So the OHV program was mandated by the Act when it was amended in 2009. And it was funded by OHV registration and permit sales and managed by the Department of Game and Fish. So the program provides OHV safety training, grant funding, law enforcement training, and patrols. We work with land managers to protect the resources in OHV areas and non-OHV areas for that matter, and try to establish safe, sustainable riding areas. So prior to the department's involvement, very few classes were actually taught. And they're operating under a private training provider model. And that model wasn't successful in New Mexico, partially because we're a sparsely populated state and our population centers are located pretty far apart from each other. So that's why the department is filling the gap there on hands-on training. So we purchased a training fleet, both ATVs and motorcycles. They're mostly youth models, but we also do have some adult compatible models so that our adult students can get safety training as well.
And then I think you're going to cover it, and I apologize. Are you talking about the cost of the trainings by chance?
I'm sorry, say again?
Are you going to talk about the cost of trainings?
Oh, it's free of charge for hands-on safety training. Yeah. So in 2019, actually, I really like this picture. I just had to use it. That's me with a group of sons and their fathers, actually kids and their fathers. There is a girl in the picture. and we are out at Aden Hills, southeast or southwest of Las Cruces, in the middle of BLM land, where we're doing ATV training. And I just, the landscape and the photogenic training site area there was just awesome. I mean, you know, I've worked in a lot of jobs where I didn't have a window, and to be able to work in a setting where I can see 50 miles away the Oregon Mountains, that's an amazing job to have. I like that picture. Anyway, so in 2019, caveat, 2020 and 2021 numbers were abysmal because of the pandemic. We were basically shut down. But in 2019, which was the last year that we were fully operational, we had 67 classes offered in 13 counties at 19 sites around the state. We conducted 37 ATV classes, 10 motorcycle classes, and 18 side-by-side classes, mostly to agencies. We had 301 students pass. Of those, 76 were youth, 30 were adult ATV students, and then 55 were agency students, and 95 agency ROV students. Our no-show rate in 2019, I was very proud of that, was 2%, which was half of our no-show rate in 2018. And we won't talk about what the no-show rate is so far this year in 2022. Obviously, the pandemic disrupted training in 2021 and 2020. We are rebuilding our program, including finding new instructors, finding new sites, and restocking our training fleet. We also conduct public outreach. This is an example of our ATV simulator. It's basically an ATV on a stick. It's mounted on 2 hydraulic rams that allows it to tilt forward, aft, and side to side, not like a electric bull or anything like that. We're not trying to buck the kids off. The main point of the simulator is to give them a chance to practice what we call body active riding of an ATV, where they have to move their body around in order to be safe on an ATV. Things like moving your weight forward or backward, depending on whether you're going uphill or downhill, and moving your weight side to side to lean in the direction of turns. And then we give the kids some souvenirs for going through our little safety training, and send them away with a positive message and a coloring book. This one was set up at the Home Depot. We will set up our simulator basically anywhere we can get a flat space and not get rained on. Although we are running out of awnings to have shade over the ATV simulator. I lost another awning this weekend when I was teaching a motorcycle class and a gust of wind blew it away.
Yep.
That's another story entirely. Another part of our outreach program is our robots. So we have 2 robots named Safety Sam and Safety Sarah, and they were the brainchild of an elementary school principal in Indiana, who was also the mother of a 10-year-old girl who went riding on an ATV on some private property with some friends of hers from her softball team. Unfortunately, the operator lost control of the ATV and her daughter was killed in the accident. So she was brainstorming a way to convey the importance of safety on ATVs and came up with the idea of animatronic robots that could interact with a young crowd and convey the message of ATV safety. So we purchased 2 of the robots from her program in Indiana. And we have, before the pandemic, we had conducted several public outreach events in elementary schools, reaching hundreds of students, whereas our ATV simulator is a one-on-one sort of presentation. The robots allow us to reach hundreds of kids at a time, but it is pretty much limited to the elementary school age level. Middle schoolers are far too cool to be entertained by ATV riding robots. Whoops, I jumped a slide there. So the department message is that much of New Mexico is designated as public land and administered for public uses or multiple uses. And with thousands of miles of backcountry roads and trails, OHV use is permitted when it's done in a responsible and safe manner. Thanks to the Motor Vehicle Act or Off-Highway Motor Vehicle Act, we're trying to make OHV recreation as safe as possible. The department encourages responsible recreational use of public lands that leaves the land healthy and unspoiled, that protects our traditional uses, customs, and culture, and that conserves wildlife and wildlife habitat, and that allows for the continued enjoyment of our public lands for our families and future generations. Helping us to convey this message, we have adopted the Tread Lightly principles. Tread Lightly is a not-for-profit organization nationally recognized for their conservation work, and it's a cooperative effort between federal government, state governments, the motorized recreation industry, non-motorized groups, and also conservation groups. We have incorporated the TREAD principles in our OHV safety training, and they are to travel responsibly, respect the rights of others, educate yourself, avoid sensitive areas, and do your part. And here's our contact information. If anybody wants to get more information, you can visit our website, beforeyourride.com or wildlife.state.nm.us. And we also have our phone number. That's my phone number for as the education coordinator. And then we also have our program manager position is vacant right now. And Desi Ortiz is our law enforcement coordinator, and I am the education. Let's see, one last slide. So there is a hotline that was established under the Act. So if you witness an OHV violation and you want to report it, there is a toll-free number that you can call, or you can directly call Desi and ask him what he's wearing and see if he can take a response there and report it to the law enforcement in the area where the violation is occurring. All right. That's the presentation. Any questions?
So Chris, I do have a couple of questions here. One of your slides, you had alluded to how you guys present your outreach efforts, and you mentioned something about becoming an instructor. You're looking for instructors or volunteers. So could you provide a little bit of information to the group on how folks can get involved with the off-highway vehicle program by volunteering, either to become safety instructors, or do you look for trail maintenance volunteers or equipment maintenance volunteers? What does a volunteer kind of look like with your guys' program?
So our program is always looking for volunteer instructors, especially, and they do have to go through the department's volunteer vetting. That includes child safe training, background investigation, and then they have to be certified as safety instructors. They've got choices. They can certify as an ATV instructor or a dirt bike instructor or side-by-side or even snowmobile. We've never certified any snowmobile instructors. That would be new. We'd have to figure out how to do that. And then basically we would support those instructors, help them find a training site to operate on, provide them with a trailer full of machines, and help them to schedule classes and get people signed up for those classes. And then we would, after the fact, collect the machines back from them and collect the paperwork and they would be, then the students would receive credit for having taken safety training. We do have a body of instructors around the state. Most of them right now are members of various law enforcement agencies that are our partners receiving grant money and then also committing to support our program as instructors. As far as other instructor roles, we'd be happy to include people in doing outreach. We mostly pay for our vehicle maintenance with the local dealers.
But you guys also utilize volunteers to help you with the simulator at outreach events and such, to where if they weren't 100% comfortable with an actual machine, but they are comfortable and confident enough in teaching somebody on the simulator, then that's also an available opportunity as well.
Correct.
Awesome. So I got a lot of questions. So, but if somebody else has questions too, by all means, just hop on in here. The one thing that I see that's really super trendy right now is those e-bikes. So I would imagine the e-bikes are something that's not in your wheelhouse as of yet. So I would imagine that is something that's not under these current rules and regulations to use, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the OHV Act only defines 4 categories of OHVs. There is a 5th category, which is a kind of a catch-all for new machines as they enter the market, but there's no move towards including e-bikes under that 5th category. So it's mainly vehicles that would have a 17-digit vehicle identification number, and e-bikes are not equipped with those. I can say also that we're seeing a huge increase in the number of electric machines on the market. So electric side-by-sides, electric ATVs, electric motorcycles. And some of them do have 17-digit VINs, others do not. So we may have to revisit some of our rulemaking in order to capture and require registration for those vehicles if a need is shown.
You know, Jen, I'm glad you brought up e-bikes. So the Forest Service and BLM have become really welcoming, whereas as in the past, they were like, you cannot be, anything motorized cannot be on any trail, regardless of if it's a non-motorized trail. Now, and it, depending on the forest and ranger district, they will allow some categories, and I think there's like 3 classes, Chris. They allow certain classes of e-bikes on, because Chris has one. They'll allow certain class of e-bike on certain trails. So you'd have to check with local ranger district, the Forest Service of where you want to go. It's not as easy as as OHV is.
Right. So I guess your recommendation on those folks who are starting to pick up an e-bike is to contact that state or federal jurisdiction to look at their travel management plan on what's acceptable and what's not as far as e-bikes.
Right.
Yeah, and specifically to contact the local office for that agency, because they're going to have the best information about what's allowed on the ground in their area of responsibility.
Great, absolutely.
That brings up an important point that is not included in my slides. So the Forest Service went through a process called travel management a few years ago, and the end product of that was what we call a motor vehicle use map. And it shows all the roads, trails, and areas that are open for motorized use in a particular ranger district. So if you were to go to the Jemez Ranger District of the Santa Fe National Forest, there is a motor vehicle use map specifically for that ranger district, and it shows you routes that you are allowed to use your machine on. The routes are segregated by type of machine, so there will be routes that are identified as for single track motorcycle use only. There's routes that are less than 50 inches wide, which would be allowed for ATVs and motorcycles. Then there are routes like roads that are open to all motorized vehicles. So side-by-sides would be able to operate on those roads along with cars and trucks. And then ATVs and motorcycles would also be allowed there. The Forest Service requires that if you are operating a motor vehicle on that range district, that you have the map for that range district, either as an electronic map, like you'd have on your phone or other device, or you can have the paper map, which is available from the range district offices.
Also, don't forget, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. That they forgot to sign everything as well. So they got a really good map. They just forgot to create signs on the ground for these maps. So in other words, like Chris said, there's various ways you can get the map. You can have a physical map, a digital map, but it's your responsibility as the user to know exactly where you are at all times. That's why I said if they had a physical sign at the trailhead, that would be a little better than trying to play guessing game with those maps sometimes.
Yeah, we have another name for trail signs in New Mexico, and that is targets. So it doesn't take long for most of those signs to acquire extra ventilation. And the Forest Service would be spending millions of dollars to replace every sign when it got damaged. The cool thing is with the electronic versions, if you've got a big enough screen, which in my case at 63 years old would be about 5 foot by 5 foot, able to read the map on it. They're also geo-referenced, so your location will show up on the map, and that's a very handy tool. And it also is supported by apps such as OnX or Gaia Maps or Reaver, any number of the navigation applications that are available for downloading to devices nowadays.
Awesome. The other question I had in the event that there are some educators in the audience or who are going to view this after it's posted on YouTube is how would a school or a group of individuals reach out to you guys if they wanted to schedule a Safety Sam, Safety Sarah talk or interaction with you guys?
They could contact me directly at 505-222-4712 or 505-239-1092, or they can send email. My email is listed on the OHV website, so beforeyourride.com or wildlife.state.nm.us. I do try and group my school outreach programs, so I try to group them geographically, so I'm hitting more than one school in an area and make the trip as economically feasible as possible, especially with the price of diesel nowadays.
And do you have your contact information slide? I think I saw it towards the back end of your presentation. That way it can be up there as well. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, anybody out there that wants to get involved and have these wonderful gentlemen come and talk to your group or your program, or if you're a state agency or a federal agency that wants to become involved and get trained, make sure you reach out to these gentlemen and they will provide you all the details with that. Was there anything else in the chat that I might have missed?
No, but I have questions. And I'm just itching to ask. So an example that comes to mind as far as violations go, you're out hunting, you're in an area where there are no trails, where you know that there shouldn't be an off-road vehicle, but you're in the forest, so you have no cell phone service to report them. What do you guys recommend that a person do that comes upon that situation?
Steph, thank you for the question. So I first recommend you don't confront the person. As angry as you will be after you hiked in a mile or two, and then you see somebody putting around on their side by side or ATV. What you can be is a good witness. You know, get a description of the vehicle, make, model, if they have a plate or a registration tag, you know, casually get that. I don't recommend confronting him and taking a picture, because if you're out in the woods and nobody else is around, I mean, I've seen crazier things. So yeah, just be a good witness. And when you get back to civilization, you call, you know, let us know as soon as possible, either whether you call the local game warden, you can call that hotline, you call your local law enforcement, just let them know that, you know, I did see X, Y, and Z, and this is what they were doing out there. It's a color, description of the vehicle, you know, whether one or two people, and little things like, you know, what color backpack they had, if they had a unique gun, if they had a camo gun with a camo sling, and it was, you know, something that identifies them out of a crowd helps. You know, the hotline that Chris presented for you guys, it is a recorded hotline. It doesn't come directly to me. I check it every day, and you know, to date, I think in the last 11 years, I've had probably 12 calls, a year. 1 year we had 2, so that was good. But yeah, just, you know, be a good witness. Try not to confront, and you know, try not to be angry. That's the biggest thing. Stay cool, and just kind of go the other way if you can.
So I think we also had a question that came in, Stephanie, like right as you were talking and Desi was talking, to where Kira, hopefully that answers your question, because she was asking, you know, you're in the wilderness area and you don't have cell service, you know, can we take pictures and report the violation at a later date, you know, when you have cell service? So I think that probably covered it. But Kira, if you have additional questions on that, please let us know.
You know, and just to let you guys know that as law enforcement, we have to witness it. You know, it can't, you can present it and we can go interview, but if we don't witness it and we can't get a confession, there's not much we can do. You know, the good investigator will get it out of them eventually, but a picture does help. We can present with the picture. Hey, you know, we have this. There's a GPS coordinate embedded in that picture. If it's a digital picture, we can tell exactly where it is, and if we can identify them enough, yeah, you know, there's a likelihood that they'll fess up. But a lot of times we have to witness the crime occurring, which is kind of a.
So Desi, does that include video? So if somebody were to video a violation actually occurring and then show that video to you, does that constitute a witnessing, or do you physically with your own eyes have to witness?
It's always been my impression, and somebody's going to jump on me on this, but it's always been my impression that, or actually, Tristan, is Sean around there? Ask him. But it's always been my understanding that, yeah, we have to witness it in order to provide enforcement action. So if we have the video, we can present it to them, and if they say, yeah, that was me, that's all we need. But if I try to file, I'm not allowed to file unless I witnessed it, I guess. But yeah. I will get back to you on that. Is Ross around there? I'm sure he'll know.
I was going to say, Sean's not here. He's out working tonight, but I believe from what I've heard him say that sounds right as well. But the tip, I mean, helping get it back to that area and to know that there's a continual violation in that area, I think that definitely helps our officers and the investigators put together a good case. So I would still send it in, even though it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. Send in that information,
please.
I know some places offer rewards for reporting off-road vehicle violations. Is that a case here in New Mexico or no?
Unless Chris is willing to ante up. I know he just sold a house, so I'm like, but no, we don't offer like the Operation Game Thief. You know, they've got different levels of reward for different animals and for different violations. No, we don't have the mechanism in place to offer rewards with all the violations that we could possibly. And actually, that may be something it would be something to vet out, but wouldn't be a bad idea. Might get a little expensive with all the off-highway vehicles running around out there, but yeah, right now we don't offer rewards, but good, something to think about.
Okay, my last question. Two-track roads are something that always confuses me. So like if you're looking on Onyx or something and there's a two-track road, and especially if it goes through like a little section that's private, but there's no, can you go through that or not?
Motor vehicle use map, that's going to be your, so, if it's BLM, they have a travel management plan. It's kind of like their motor vehicle use map to tell you where you can and cannot be. So if it's not on the motor vehicle use map and it's in the forest, then they cannot be on it. Because that's how a highway gets created. They see one set of tracks and then another set, and then you get 50 people crossing to it during that day. So no, if it's not on the motor vehicle use map, they're not supposed to be on it. If it's a road that's open to all motor vehicles, then yeah, by all means. If it's something that the Forest Service said, yeah, we don't care much about that one. That's an old established road. Let it be open to all vehicles, and they can be, even if it's a two-track. But again, refer to that map. If it's not on the map, they cannot be on that particular road.
There is a problem in New Mexico sometimes where you are on what is a designated open route, and you come to a closed gate, and there are all kinds of signs warning no trespassing and will be shot on sight and all kinds of stuff like that. And all of your map resources tell you it's an open route. Use your best discretion, obviously. There are ranchers out there who close access to what should be open routes. And so if that's the case, if that's what you're encountering, please let local law enforcement know, because they're not supposed to do that.
Cool, thanks guys.
Are there any additional questions that we might have missed in the chat or anywhere else?
I haven't seen any in the chat, but you guys stole all of my questions.
See, we're all thinking alike, so that's good. If the three of us are thinking that way, I'm sure lots of other people are thinking the same way too. So that's good. So
Darcy always has a question about something. Darcy, topic related, not off topic. No, Darcy. Is she still there? I see her.
I am.
Oh,
I am here.
Hi,
I'm not good at Zoom. Oh no, I don't have questions, but that's because I took the instructor's course with Chris,
oh, there you
and
go.
and it was fun. Now it's been a while. I bet it's been 4 years, but I took it and I enjoyed it, but I never got to use it. So I'd probably have to take it again.
Well, tell you what, Darcy, I can put you through the law enforcement course and see how you like that one.
Darcy, law enforcement? Are you kidding?
It's a little
Actually,
more high speed.
Darcy, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Jennifer touched on it when she talked about volunteers for the program. So why don't you describe for us what people need to do to become volunteers for our program?
Oh, I appreciate that, Chris, but I put it in the chat.
Okay.
I gave him we gave him the link and everything already, but I appreciate you being on top of it. Anyways, I'm the
just not on
person
top
that,
of the chat. So
yes, I'm the person that gets you on board. And then once I get you on board, I give you contact information for those programs that you're interested in.
great. Thanks, Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wonderful. Thank you both, Chris and Desi, for taking time out of your day to be with us and be with this group this evening. A wealth of information, and I think unless the statistics have changed since the last time I heard, I believe it was 63 or 65% of sportsmen actually utilize an off-highway vehicle of some description. So that's a big body of our constituents for sure. So your program has a lot of validity to what the agency does and what people do out there. And, just like Hunter Ed, it's saving lives and protecting folks from getting injured. And so it's a great program to have, a super wonderful resource that's available out there to folks. So thank you both for a wonderful presentation and a lot of really good information. And again, for those folks who weren't able to join us live this evening, this will be posted on the department's YouTube page here in a few days or so. So, you know, make sure you circle back around. What's really nice too is that it's available at any time. So if you're trying to think of something, well, I remember Chris and Desi said something, you can circle back around to this, replay it, and you know, share it with your friends and family, especially if you guys all like to go out and enjoy your ATVs or dirt bikes or whatever, and utilize this as a resource to help educate others about safely riding out there, because it's a wonderful sport. I miss having our side-by-side immensely. So, but it's a great time, and sometimes it can get you back into places where it's like, wow, I couldn't get my vehicle in here. This was well worth the investment to have this, and it's a safe way to do stuff. So.
Thank you for having us. Once again, beforeyouride.com is the website. Easy to remember and easy to navigate for some folks. Some folks will have trouble navigating, but that's everything we do.
Could you spell it, Desi? Is it B-E, or you just have to, you know, spell it out?
Correctly. So letter B, number 4, letter U, ride, RIDE.com.
Great. That way everybody knows for sure.
Yeah, thank you for having us, by the way. That was good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And I just wanted to say New Mexico is blessed with a huge amount of public land. Not all of it is open to OHV recreation, but the stuff that we have available to us is just a treasure, and people don't realize just what we have. There is an organization called Backcountry Discovery Routes, and they are focused on creating routes, mapping out routes across the states, across a lot of states, for people to go out and see the backcountry and stay off of paved roads as much as possible, and the opportunity to actually go out and see just what a treasure New Mexico is a fantastic opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Well, again, thank you guys for a wonderful evening. So be on the lookout for this posting to be on YouTube. And with that, everybody have a wonderful evening, and we will catch everybody in August. I don't have a calendar right in front of me, so Tristana or Stephanie, you can hop in and give me the date. On which day?
Tuesday the 16th.
Tuesday the 16th. And we are going to be having a conversation. Was it about?
Jana Waller will be joining us. She's from Montana. She also has a hunting show, and she's going to be talking about getting someone started hunting for the first times and things you can do to prep for your next hunt.
Fantastic. Which fall is right around the corner. July is halfway done, and antelope season starts literally within weeks. So it's pretty crazy. So, but thank you all so very much for your continued support and joining us. Have a great evening, and we will catch you in August.